What is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and in case you were wondering, yes, still celebrating. First place in the AFC East, currently the number 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture, entering the bye week on a 4-game win streak. Join me, please. Let's celebrate this. We've had few things to celebrate as Dolphins fans over the last couple of decades. Take some time and soak this one in. So yes, Dolphins fans, next week's going to be the regular week. We won't have the bye week, obviously, so I will do the usual schedule previewing Houston Texans week. But since it is the bye week, actually had to ad-lib a little bit here and there. Wanted to tackle some viewer questions, did a viewer mailbag, and that's what you are getting today. So let's jump into those. Actually, I'm going to take one more drink so that you can have a chance. Run to your fridge, run to your beer cooler, whatever you got to do. Grab a drink and join me. It's a celebration. Let's jump into this, though. Got some good ones here today. First question is, who is your top 3 to 5 candidates in the current MVP race? This one pained me because I had to put our boy Tua number 2. I'll save number 1 for last. So Tua's number 2. I've got Jaylen Hurts 3. I've got Josh Allen 4. And at 5, I've got Lamar Jackson. But honestly, that's kind of where I have Tyreek Hill as well. I've got Tyreek kind of in that 5, 6, 7 range because, man, he has helped transform this offense. And I know the MVP is essentially a quarterback award, so I really like Tyreek for that Offensive Player of the Year award. Receivers are typically more suited for that. Can't be understated what he has done to this offense, having almost essentially a career year, damn near on pace for 2,000 yards. Got to give him some love as well. But right now, I've got Mahomes number 1. Number 1 seed in the AFC. He's doing it without Tyreek. He's also having a great season. And here's why I do think, though, that Tua could legit be number 1 in a lot of people's rankings, and I wouldn't hate that whatsoever. And why I do think Tua has a great chance of winning the MVP is because Mahomes has been there. He's won MVP. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. He's almost going to potentially get that LeBron treatment where there's certain guys that could just win the award every single year. But the voters tend to do different stuff. And it's almost like if you won one, you're held to even a higher standard. And I think Patrick Mahomes might be put on that pedestal at this point in time, where if Tua continues to put up the numbers that he's doing, and if the Dolphins continue to win, it's not going to surprise me whatsoever. Actually, about 3 weeks ago, right when the odds were still not all that great, I actually put a small wager on Tua. So I am praying, I am hoping that this hits, because guess what? The celebration will definitely continue then. Let's go on to the next one. Which game will be the hardest of those left on the schedule? So I'm down between 2 games when I look at the rest of the schedule. Not saying there's only 2 hard ones left, and I'm between the 49ers and the Bills. And I'm going to go with the Bills for this one for a couple of different reasons. One, I think, end of the day, they are still one of the strongest teams in the AFC, in the NFL. Josh Allen, you could give him the MVP as well. Yeah, he leads the league in interceptions, but at the end of the day, he's made enough unbelievable, awesome plays. He scores so many points. He gets it done through the air on his legs. He can afford to turn the ball over here and there. So I'm not going to hold all that against him. But I've talked about this in preview videos earlier in this week. When the Bills are at home in December, they are given a huge advantage, especially when you're playing a team like the Dolphins or the Jaguars or the Buccaneers, teams that tend to play in warmer climates. It's going to be a challenge. It always is. It's late in the season. It's going to be a huge potential must win. This game could end up deciding the AFC East. So that right there is a big enough reason for me to give the Bills a slight edge over that 49ers. Although one of the questions coming up here is going to talk about the 49ers as well. Let's jump into the next one. In what ways can the Houston Texans challenge us? So obviously the Houston Texans are the next game on our schedule. Like I said, I'm going to have a full week preview talking more about that. However, I do want to touch on this, and it was a good opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about the Texans, which I plan on watching quite a bit of on Sunday with the Dolphins on bye week. But defensively, they are the absolute league worst against the run. Hello, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, coming off those unbelievable games last week against the Browns. We could be in store for a huge game from them again. They're average against the pass. Offensively, they aren't statistically strong in the run or the pass game. So what I ended up doing was I looked into their one win because they got the tie and they got a win. The win came against the Jaguars. And that game was a prime example of what happens when you can let a team hang around in the NFL. Literally anything can happen. So in that game, scores tied 6-6 at halftime. Real thriller. The Texans got the go-ahead touchdown with 3 minutes left to go in that game. But in that game, Trevor Lawrence threw 2 interceptions. They had drive stall. They had to settle for 2 early field goals. They turned the ball over on downs 3 times. Everything that I just listed there, if you Google recipe for keeping NFL teams in a game, that's what it comes up. That's how you let a team like the Houston Texans stay around and win a game. So I don't think it's necessarily something that they do great offensively or defensively, or even like a player that you have to scheme for or scheme against. I talked about scheming against Myles Garrett last week. They don't really have that kind of guy, in my opinion. They're just more so a team you don't let hang around. Think about the Steelers game. We had talked about the Dolphins-Steelers game earlier this year. Said, you know what? We're at home. They are outmatched. We're getting Tua back. The one thing we can't let them do is just hang around. And we did, and it damn near cost us. So kind of think that. Put that team away early. We will be just fine. Let's go on to the next one. Are we going to bring in another defensive back? My answer to that is no. I really doubt it. If there was anyone worth claiming right now that was available, they would have been claimed. It's week 11. People aren't hanging around. Guys like Ndamukong Suh were hanging around. I personally think strategically for an opportunity like what he got, there was a contender in the Eagles calling, hey, we lost one of our interior defensive linemen. We're a Super Bowl contender. You want to come and join us? Sure. He's going to get paid. He's going to go to a contender. That kind of stuff happens. I don't think there's a cornerback like that on the market. So you look at the options. That's option one, getting Byron Jones back. And there was another question about like what happened to Byron Jones? What's going on with Byron Jones? So I'm going to kind of tag that question into this question, I should say. But essentially, we thought Byron Jones was going to be ready by now. We thought he was going to be ready a couple of months ago. And now you can leave it to speculation. Is he honestly injured to the point where he's not ready to go? Or is he just kind of thinking future, you know what? I've got future years after this. I'm not 100% healthy yet. I'm not quite back from that injury. I don't want to put negative tape out there. I don't want to put something on film that a team is going to hold against me and is going to end up messing with my contract in the future. So like I said, let speculation run amok. I don't necessarily know exactly where I fall on that because you kind of want to give the player the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, when you kind of connect the dots, you're like, how's he not out there yet? So Byron Jones is an option yet, but the only other option that I kind of see is a practice squad guy. If they want to call somebody up, or if we suffer from another injury in the secondary, you've got a couple of practice squad guys. And I believe that they are currently Kalen Barnes, Tino Ellis, and Jamal Perry. So if we do eventually see a new face in the secondary, I honestly think it's going to be one of the in-house guys. Let's flash up the next question and take a celebratory drink. There we go. Next question. How difficult will the game against the 49ers be? And I said, between the 49ers and the Bills, those are the two that I fear the most. Now, if you look at this game against the 49ers, what a matchup. This is one that we had circled on the calendar since the day that Mike McDaniel was hired and the schedule came out. The coaches obviously know each other very, very well, working for each other and with each other for as many years as they did. The offensive schemes have loads of similarities. The 49ers do run the ball more. They do technically run it a little bit more successfully as well. But the schemes, the placement, everything is kind of based on the same ideas. Now, this game for the Miami Dolphins is the first game of a 3-game road stretch, which includes games against the Chargers and the Bills. So maybe you have a little bit of that looking ahead effect as well. The nice thing is it's only essentially 2 games after we're coming off the bye week. So we should be fairly rested. So if you look at the 49ers, offensively, they rank 13th rushing, 10th passing. which kind of surprises me. I knew that they were pretty solid offensively. I didn't know they were statistically that good, but you look at them offensively and you're like, this team kind of has studs. They're obviously on to plan B at quarterback, which is almost like a de facto plan A because they were used to playing with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's not like you're playing with your typical backup, but they planned all season to roll with Trey Lance. But he's not there. But you make the midseason move to bring in Christian McCaffrey. You already got Kittle, you got Debo, you got Ayuk. This offense has pieces. But what side of the ball scares me most? It's defensively. That is exactly where they scare me. They give up the least total yards in the NFL currently going into week 11. The 8th fewest passing yards, the 2nd fewest rushing yards, the 4th fewest points allowed per game. And this is the part that scares me the most. They're tied for 5th in the NFL in total sacks. Nick Bosa alone already has 9.5, and they got 3 more guys that have 3 or more sacks on the season as well. So this defense is their calling card. It is the thing that scares me the most. End of the day, I am looking forward to this match. But to answer your question, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be probably one of the top 2 or 3 most difficult games left on the schedule. Let's bust through these last ones as well. Who should be a top free agent target this offseason? Who could be a cap casualty? I like looking forward. I don't really necessarily want to look forward to this season since we're in the thick of things. But I love these questions. I love free agency. I love the drafts. So let's jump into it. And my first thought was, let's look at the running back class. 2 reasons. One, I know the free agent running back class, if these guys test free agency, if they don't get re-signed by their teams, is loaded. 2, you look at our 2 top running backs. Raheem Mostert, 30 years old. Jeff Wilson, 27 years old. Both on expiring contracts. So this position could look mighty different next year. But look at this running back class. I'll go call it a class. It's a free agent class. Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Jamal Williams. And those are just the big names. There's still some other like smaller pieces in there as well. But if you're the Dolphins, you're looking for that one cut and go running back. You're looking for a guy that has good speed. You're looking for a guy that can handle some passes coming his way. So Kareem Hunt is one of the names that comes off the screen for me because temporary fix. We heard his name floated around with the trade deadline before we got Jeff Wilson. And I honestly think guys like Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs, I think they might be out of the Dolphins' price range. When I think about the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer and the running back position, I think they believe so much in the scheme, in their offensive linemen and in their play calling that they're like, you know what? We don't need a Saquon Barkley type running back to make this go. We can get it done with guys like Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. So maybe you re-sign one of those guys, and then maybe you add a guy like Kareem Hunt or Jamal Williams, and that would probably be my call for now. And no, it's not sexy. And yeah, it's obviously way too early to tell. But like I said, I love free agency. I love the draft. So I absolutely had to add this question. And there was the second part, the cap casualty. So I'm looking at some potential cap casualty guys for the Dolphins before I started this, and I went the easy way out. I took a couple of easy options here because there's a potential out for Byron Jones, who's 30 years old after this season. So he would be my top, especially if he fails to come back this year. That's what I kind of think the writing on the wall could be for him. But then my option number 2 would be Jason Sanders. He also has a potential out. I know they re-signed him to a contract, but there's a potential out after this year. And there was a report earlier in the week that, you know what, if things keep going the way that they are, expect competition this offseason for Jason Sanders. So yeah, I kind of took the easy way out with the cap casualty, but really early to tell, but I like to play that game as well. So Byron Jones, Jason Sanders would be my answer for that. But I'm going to end it right here for today, Dolphins fans. Like I said, I will be back next week with a full preview for the Houston Texans game. And then hopefully I might even have something prior to then as well. But wait and see. Subscribe if you haven't and turn those notifications on so you can check things out as they arrive. But that is my time for today, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.